Hello, I'm Scott Hammond from INSEAD Knowledge, and I have with me today the director, academic director, and executive director of the INSEAD Social Innovation Centre. First, the academic director, Luc van Wassenhove, and the executive director, Megan Pillsbury. Thank you for coming. We have just hosted the INSEAD Leadership Summit, whose theme was Global Citizenship, a cornerstone for leaders, and it was the occasion to launch the INSEAD Social Innovation Centre. Many of the speakers were speaking focused on issues directly related to the mission of the centre and the objectives of the centre, and I wanted to take this opportunity to get your feedback on the things you heard, the ideas that were out there, and how you see them affecting the future development of the centre.
The first thing to say, I think, is that there was an enormous amount of excitement in this summit. I've been to many of them in my career at INSEAD, and this was the first one where people were really excited talking about the subject in the breaks and having heated discussions. So I think it is really a topic that is very timely. And one of the discussions during the day was, do they get it? And my conclusion at the end of the day was yes. I mean, many people see that the world has changed, that there are huge problems, global problems, whether it's diseases or energy or warming or, or hunger. There's lots of problems that people understand that they will ask companies to have a much higher responsibility in trying to solve those problems or help to solve those problems, because the governments somehow are not up to it at this point in time. So they see the need. The problem is, can they act upon it? And there, I think, to go from the understanding to the acting, lots of companies still have big issues.
How fast do you feel this is moving? Is this these questions that could have been asked a year ago, 2 years ago?
Sure, but I think the general acceptance that is no longer an issue. We understand that the issues are there. We've accepted that they're there. That to me was exciting, and it was new. And then, of course, the next step is now how do we act? And some companies are already doing that. Other companies are just sitting there thinking, what should we do? What are the constraints? What are the opportunities? And I think the business schools, they're looking at the business school like INSEAD saying, can you help us think through that process? Fine, I understand that companies will be asked to play a bigger role in the future. What does that mean for my company? What does that mean for me in the company, in my role? What does that mean for the markets that we're going to go to? What does that mean for the products and services that we're going to develop? What does that mean for the people we need to attract and groom to become our future leaders? Those were really the interesting key questions at the summit, and they were also discussed in the various panels. So it was quite interesting to see that we moved in a way from yes, there's an issue to how can we tackle the issue.
Taking the example of that you just mentioned, of the two possibilities, the companies that seem to know where they're going, have thought this through and have an action plan, and then the other companies that see the need as well, but don't have an action plan yet, don't really know what the next concrete step is. How do you see the center as being a resource for companies in that position?
Well, one thing that I noticed is even the organizations whose executives are the leaders on these issues, the leaders still seem to not feel like they're there and they've gotten there. And so we have the companies who haven't started yet and the companies who are well underway but still don't know exactly how to implement it to the full impact that they need to have in order to create a sustainable development in the world. And so both of those types of organizations are looking to business schools to help address these issues. I think on the companies that are further ahead, they are looking for, okay, what's the sustainability, what's the long term? Whereas the companies who are just starting are more, what does it mean for us? How do we start to look at these issues? How do we be systematic in thinking through these? What are the frameworks? What is the research on this? And so I think that's where the center plays a big role.
Some companies are still looking at this as a constraint. We got to do something about it. Other companies that are further along have seen this as a great opportunity for innovation, for attracting the right people, for getting the pride in their companies, for retention of their people, and so on. So, and I think the business school and the center can help the companies move from a defensive sort of attitude, corporate responsibility, what does that mean? Is it more constraints upon us? To, hey, this is a fantastic opportunity to grow our company in existing as well as new markets.
Do you see an event like this, can it be a catalyst? Can there be concrete results that come out of an event like this that will enable the center to move forward in its dialogue with these company leaders?
One very interesting panel, the Africa panel. What came out of that was people actually started rethinking about Africa. And what surprised me is many of the people in the room had at some point in their lives dealt with Africa and had written it off because they had a bad experience or whatever. But after this panel and hearing from the people who were being successful there, people were now having an opinion, oh, maybe I should be checking Africa out. Maybe I should look into it again. Maybe things have changed, or maybe we know more. Maybe we can learn from Africa.
I think there's another side to it, which I think also mentioned in the wrap-up, is that there may be resistance within some companies who, are hesitating how they should move into this, and even maybe if they should move into this. The same happens for a business school, right? We have a number of stabilized fields that are, for good reasons, rather reluctant to change. So I think even the business school, some fields in the business school, some of our colleagues also need to be made aware of the fact that the world is changing and we need to come up with new business models to grow companies. And given the fact that we have these sorts of events, I think it helps because there are big leaders in industry like Carlos Ghosn or Ben Verwaayen. These are not small fish. If they come here and say, listen, this is key and this is how we move our company in this direction, our faculty and our student will also understand that if they want to make a career in the future, our students then in that case, they need to prepare for those demands. See, if a Carlos Ghosn comes here and says, you know what, I'm actually making a deal with the Israeli government to develop electric cars, I mean, that makes an impact.
I think what made this leadership summit so exciting and there was so much conversation and debate is because these topics are controversial and they're controversial in the sense that they're challenging companies to change. So like any external forces that evolve and put different pressures on companies, now they're forced to change, and some change faster than others. Some see it as an opportunity, some see it as a threat. These issues are about change. So it's these external forces are putting pressures on companies. So it's not that the companies are in new territory in terms of having to respond, but it's the types of responses that are required, which is new. And so like any change, the companies who respond quickly and embrace the fact that things are changing, they're going to be the ones that succeed. And the other organizations and leaders who say, oh, climate change is not an issue, I don't believe in it, or I shouldn't have to work with these partnerships, all I do is maximize shareholder value, I think they're going to have more and more difficulty actually creating shareholder value as we go into the future, because they're not embracing these issues as an opportunity within change.
And that's what Ben said, right? Ben Verwaayen from BT. I mean, Ben was actually saying already, we move beyond the point where this is a constraint. We're thinking about opportunities there, and we need to grasp those opportunities and innovate. And then he said, the enemy is us. We should stop blaming others. It's really ourselves. We're not capable of getting this through the minds of our people. And the people have been trained to be successful doing particular things 20, 25 years, 30 years in their careers. And now they have to start thinking about different opportunities. And so the enemy is very much changing the minds of the people. That's why it wasn't just Africa, but it was also leadership and it was also innovation. And those were the themes of the summit. And the leadership part, the enemy is us. The internal part is, of course, a very important one.
Megan, Luke, thanks for taking the time to talk about these issues. I'd invite any of our listeners to go to the Social Innovation Centre website, on the INSEAD website, to get some more in-depth information about what's going on at the Social Innovation Centre. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Scott.